The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Sky. All the football you love in one place. Across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
You're very welcome along to the Football Show. Potentially a decisive weekend in the Premier League. There is now a 3-point gap between Manchester City and Liverpool. Everton, meanwhile, are looking good to avoid the drop. You would say they're 1 point clear of Leeds and Burnley with a game in hand. So it's looking like Burnley or Leeds going down with Watford and Norwich. 3 games to sort that out. As for Champions League football, Arsenal now 4 points clear of Spurs. Same number of games played. They play on Thursday. So this is all bubbling away very nicely. Mark Lawrenson is with us. Hello.
Good afternoon.
I say decisive, probably not decisive at all, actually, just the latest twist or turn. We might start with Man City because Pep Guardiola feels that there's an incredible media bias against Manchester City. So it's good to talk to Liverpool legend Mark Lawrenson here to prove him wrong. I think he's right, by the way. I think when he says the whole country pretty much would prefer Liverpool to beat City and there are more Liverpool pundits in the media, no, he's right.
Yeah.
But there's an obvious reason for that, but he is probably right.
Well, the obvious reason is the money, isn't it? In terms of the country that backs Manchester City, and the fact that Liverpool, in terms of recruitment, my specialist subject, have just got it so much better. I mean, where they're shopping in completely different places than Manchester City are, but they booked some outstanding players and made them into world-class players. And good luck to City. I mean, who wouldn't want to play for them? Who wouldn't want to manage them? You know, as far as they're concerned, yeah, the owners have loads of money. Happy days, let's get on with it. But I just think there's something about Liverpool as well, and it's not just the way they play or the manager. I think it's also to do with the history. Even people who don't necessarily particularly like football, I think they like watching Liverpool, and for many different reasons, you know, and including Hillsborough and including Heysel and all those kind of things, and all the history, both good and bad, that football club has.
And I think in the media, the more successful players go into punditry, and you had that golden era and a lot of the Liverpool players went into punditry, lots of them still there. Yeah. And now we're seeing the lag. The Manchester United players are starting to dominate punditry. Right. So maybe in 10 years' time we'll have all the City players sitting there.
No, because most of them aren't from around here and they'll clear off. I don't know. It might be different. I would always say that obviously myself and Alan Hansen were really fortunate to get the jobs with BBC and stuff. But you know what I thought? I used to say to people that, you know, we did so many interviews over the years, and whether it's friendships with people from the media that were already in there working, or it's thinking, well, actually they speak a little bit of sense, they're reliable, whatever. I think that's all part and parcel of it. I mean, I'm sure that Jamie Carragher and obviously Gary Neville could have gone into management. Well, Gary did. I mean, obviously rather short lived at Valencia, wasn't it? But Jamie was, no, I'm never going to do that. But he always felt that he always had something to say. Had something to say on the pitch. I mean, while he wasn't the captain when Stevie G was there, he was very much a leader, which everybody kind of knew as well. And he's even got over the fact that he was an Everton supporter when he was a young boy. I mean, that's almost unheard of. And he goes on about Liverpool all the time, like all of us.
So of City's performance, fresh from European disappointment, Sterling with the first, Laporte the second, Rodri with yet another header, Foden fourth, Sterling then his second, City's fifth.
Yeah.
It did strike me there are different ways of doing things in football, and they did win with a certain panache here, which would send a message. Like I thought, for instance, akin to Benzema's penalty at the Etihad. He didn't just score the penalty. It was a bloody Panenka. It sent a certain message to Man City. If you think we're feeling the pressure here, we're very comfortable in this environment. And City send a message there.
I was working for one of the TV stations on this Saturday evening after the Liverpool game, and the guy, the interviewer, said to me, "Oh, City might find it tough tomorrow," and I was like, "Actually, absolutely, totally not. What you want is a game, and what you want is a game where, you know, everything is on the line. And all right, you know, they suffered the defeat, but it's just a defeat. They're actually unlucky against Real Madrid. Obviously, one or two of the calls weren't great, but they were really, really unlucky when you look at it. certainly in the Bernabeu. And I just think, as I'm going back to my days and going back to our old dressing room, if that had happened to us, we'd be like, let's play tomorrow. Let's get rid of this. Let's park it somewhere else. And that's what they did. Although, Woods should have scored for Newcastle. That was a fabulous chance so early on in the game. And then obviously it could be different because, goals change games. But I was never in any doubt that Manchester City were going to win and win comfortably. And I think a lot of people involved in the game would have looked and thought, do you know what? Good luck to Newcastle here, by the way.
Man City are about to win a 4th league in 5, let's just say for a moment.
Yeah. And
yet haven't got it done in Europe. So what does that say about them as a team, or about their greatness or their lack of greatness for you?
They're still a fabulous team. I mean, themselves and Liverpool are one of 2 of the best clubs in the world. There's any doubt about that. I think it takes a bit of time to win the Champions League. I think they slipped up with the Lyon decision. I think, is that 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, 2. And then the final last year, yeah.
And then the final last year, and you're kind of thinking, is Klopp, is Pep overthinking it? When you look at his substitutions in the Bernabeu, they were for a reason. They were for good reasons. And then you look at, the 2 chances that Grealish had. I mean, the goalkeeper saving with his studs. It's just, you just sometimes know it's not going to be a night. And then was it the second goal on the night for Real Madrid where it flicked off one of their own players?
Yeah.
Before they actually scored. I mean, I'd never seen a goal like that in my life before. And so I just think they were very, very unlucky. And sometimes the best team doesn't win a football match. It's the way that football happens. And it's why we love it so.
Yes.
And why we have
but what does it say when the best team doesn't win the match across several years? There is something off there. There has to be.
Yeah, you know what? I don't know what my answer to that is. I really wouldn't know. I don't think. Are you trying to say to me almost kind of surreptitiously, is it something to do in the dressing room, or do they get a little bit too nervous? All those kind of things. Well, I wouldn't know, but I don't think so, because they played some fabulous football in the 2 games. Absolutely fabulous. And they scored 6 goals, didn't they? So I'm not sure what it is. We might think it's belief, but the way they play, maybe it was just the other night. I think was just a little bit where we moan all the time when we're up against one of the foreign teams and they're falling over and they're wasting time and they're in front and all those kind of things, and we moan about it. I think maybe City were guilty of not doing a little bit of that, just slowing the game down. I think maybe their problem might be is that they just think every time they get the ball, they can score. The problem is in the Champions League, so can the top teams against you.
In answer to your question, I don't quite know what I'm saying, but I do find it all very striking, because you watch them week in, week out. They're such a brilliant team. There's nothing very obvious to pinpoint. And look, in previous years, Pep has made some very glaring changes, and so you could put it all in his door. This year, it's a more complicated picture. You couldn't say he did something very glaring. So you're still looking at them, trying to figure out what the issue is. And I take your point, unlucky on the night, but this is stretching back across a period, and they're such a, they're kind of, 4th league, if it is a 4th league in 5, they're utterly dumb. They're the best team in Europe in many respects.
Yeah. I wonder if it is just that it is a mentality, which is just, we are so good. We can keep the ball, we can score at any time. And I think it's a bit like they don't want to be seen just kicking the ball 50 yards forward and squeezing up and say, we hold what we have. So maybe it's a little bit of that. Maybe the way that Pep teaches them all, and he does, and even when the top players go there, he teaches them something a little bit different, which is why he's so good. Look at De Bruyne. Is that little bit of, do you know what, boys? For 10 minutes, let's chuck it in the corners and let's all squeeze up and let's see if they can score from 85 yards away, the other team. So, and I think it's a little bit, we can still play, we're brilliant, we're this, we're that, which is all kind of good. But maybe it's a bit of that.
Yeah. I would tend to agree with that, for sure. And they weren't against lobbing it forward in the final couple of minutes of the second half of extra time. Ederson was pumping the ball forward when things were really desperate. Jack Grealish was very much to the fore yesterday in their win. And yet, I'm curious for your thoughts. Against Real Madrid, he had those two. I mean, it was brilliant play as well. Those two opportunities and didn't quite go his way. You can't fault him for that. That's just great play. However, I think we did see why Guardiola does not trust Grealish in a microcosm. And there was a 5-6 minute period where he let Asensio go really badly and got cussed out of it by his fellow defenders. And then he didn't stop. It was the first cross in particular. And then considering he's fresh, second cross he'd have a bit of a question to answer as well. Yeah. He can't get away with that at the Bernabeu. And he has to learn you can't get away with that. And those margins. Yeah.
Well, that's it. That is the finality of all of it. And, I mean, I don't know. I presume that Klopp, I keep saying Klopp, whether Guardiola said something to him after the match or not, I'm not quite sure. But there was also yesterday where the ball came in from the right. I can't remember who it was, City's point of view. And actually, you know, he's playing on the left, but he never came in to attack the ball, because if he had, he'd have scored. And it's almost so he'd like, oh, should I go or should I not? And I think next season he'll be going, because they'll be making the point to him. But look, you know, he's very, very talented. I wouldn't have him in my starting 11 at the moment. I think he will only get better, because he does a lot of things really, really well. But you know what? He just the cut inside all the time, which is fine. But people get used to it. And they just, you know, the fullback goes to him, and then the right side of midfield goes to him and go, okay, you come inside and try and hurt us. So that's something, obviously, he's going to have to try and get another trip. But he's still a very, very good player. But I wouldn't have him in my starting 11.
So the word is that the Erling Haaland deal is very much nearing completion. And the other reporting over the weekend is that Manchester City are looking at Paul Pogba on a free transfer. So imagine Pep Guardiola rings you up and says, Mark, Pogba, what do you think?
I'd say no. I'd say absolutely, categorically no.
And he says to you, I can get him playing for me like he plays for France.
Well, everyone else has tried, and I think there's a number. No, I'm sorry, I wouldn't trust him. I just would not trust him. I think the other thing as well is Pogba, Man United, what's his best position? They've tried him everywhere. They've absolutely tried him everywhere. Does he actually give you 100% on the pitch? I'd argue no. And then, you know, you can't afford that, certainly, in any team. And we know he's a different player playing for France, and he plays more freely, but Manchester United have tried him playing that way. You can't rely on him. And I'm sorry, I don't think he gets the hard work ethic. I think it's all about, he has to be on the ball, he has to be the star. Well, you know, in football, sometimes week in, week out, you cannot be the best player, although you'd absolutely love to be. Maybe De Bruyne can be, and that's the other thing with him. And I just don't think you can rely on him. And the other thing is that he'd go to Manchester City, and yes, obviously, you know, brilliant team as we know, but you see how hard they work. See how hard De Bruyne worked. See how many different positions De Bruyne picks up in the game. See how often he comes back to defend. And by the way, doesn't mind a little bit of a tackle. You know, Foden, all those kind of lads. And you can't have 10 teas, 1 coffee in a football team at that level. You've all got to put an absolute shift in, even if you're not playing particularly well. You have to be part of the team. And as soon as the chain breaks, there's a problem. And I just wouldn't trust him at all.
Were you at Anfield Saturday?
I was, and I thought Tottenham were really good. And I think that, you know, they defended extremely well and had to for long periods of the game. But you know what? When they broke forward, they were very, very dangerous. I mean, we saw the other week when Everton went there that they couldn't break forward, but they held Liverpool for about an hour. But Tottenham were very good going forward. And I think they're a little bit hurt that they might not have got an extra 2 points as well. And they made Liverpool actually on Saturday night look, I wouldn't say average, but not look anywhere near the best. And, you know, everyone comes off that, and all the supporters, we didn't play very well and all that. But you go, hang on a minute. Tottenham played really, really well. It's funny, isn't it, that Tottenham have drawn twice with Liverpool this year and beaten Man City twice. I mean, that's a fair old stat. So I thought they were really good. I thought they were very, very competitive. Liverpool actually didn't create many clear-cut opportunities, which is unusual for them.
So Spurs, very much 5-4-1. Conte knows how to organise a team, and they were set up and said, break us down. Those moments where, not so much the one where Thiago 8 times out of 10 would have dinked it perfectly to Alexander-Arnold. More so where Alexander-Arnold is almost overcooking crosses totally and missing everyone, and it's starting to look a little bit like they're running out of ideas. Against other teams, we've seen Liverpool, quick to feet, move, quick 1-2, and create something. What was your read on why that wasn't happening? Are we putting that down to Spurs as well?
No, I think they didn't have one of the better days.
Okay.
Yes, the opposition were contributing to it. They just didn't have one of the better days, in all honesty. And it happens. I mean, absolutely, totally happens. And people forget they've had a few of those this season. I think Brentford away, amongst others, where the 2-0 at Chelsea got drawn back to 2-2, I think. So, look, they can't be brilliant every single week. But what happens against the kind of lesser team, shall I say, certainly at home, the lesser teams have to concentrate for so long that in the end the chain kind of breaks a little bit. Somebody knocks off and Liverpool are in, or they've already devastated you within the first sort of 45 minutes. But I thought they played Mane and Salah extremely well, and Diaz even, So no, I'm just a little bit, well done Tottenham. I thought they were really, really good, and it's hard, when you're playing at home against a team like that, because yes, you're going to have loads of the ball, but also defensively in the back of your mind, you're thinking these are good on the break. These are really, really good on the break, and maybe you don't quite get that 100% commitment to all go forward. It's a little bit, hold on a bit here, lads. So I just go, one of those days. He dealt with it well, didn't he? The manager said it's an extra point, so we've got a chance. But yeah,
he's also a wonderfully terrible loser, Jurgen Klopp, and so
it's absolutely killing him. He'd love to actually slaughter Conte and everybody.
Well, he didn't.
The referees a lot.
He didn't go far short. I mean, talk about damning with faint praise. So of Conte and the Spurs organisation in defence.
Yeah.
Klopp said, I'm sorry, I'm the wrong person to ask about that because I don't like this kind of football. That's my personal opinion. I think they're world class and they should do more for the game. End quote.
Yeah.
So that's a real, think about that in the drive home Conte moment.
Yeah, but look, it's quite clever, isn't it? It really seriously is clever. And
is it clever or is it just being a bad loser?
No, I think it's a bit of both. But he could never be as bad as Ronnie Moran. Never, ever, ever. He wins that title by a million miles.
So what was Ronnie like then after defeat?
Oh, my God. Honestly, it was just like, if you lost a game, certainly at home, it was personal insult to himself, his family, his dog, you name it. Absolutely the lot. It was all right after a while, but oh, my goodness me, not good. And if you're travelling 6 hours back from Southampton and we've been beaten and been particularly poor, it was not a good place to be on that coach. Okay.
You wouldn't start a chant saying, can we get some beers on the coach that day?
Well, the rule was basically, if we lost, no, we wouldn't have any. But if we won or draw, get on with it, happy days.
Or a draw. Jeez.
Yeah, draw.
Slackers.
Slackers, yeah. Well, yeah, but the thing, but what I never noticed at first, but so we're all down the back of the bus like teams are and everything, and the boot room staff would be at the front. There'd only be like 3 or 4 of them, not like the 30 that there is now. And they'd be drinking. I first thought they were just drinking Lucozade. I never realised for the first couple of games it was just whiskey, wasn't it? It was whiskey in the Lucozade bottle. So yeah. And talking about staff, I was waiting to go down the tunnel at the end of the match, and I was counting because it was right by the Tottenham changing room. The number of staff that they have is, it was like 30 odd people. I'm like, what do they all do? It was just absolutely amazing. After staff after staff after staff, you think, wow, what a wage bill they must have. Liverpool would be the same as well. Obviously, I wasn't stood outside their dressing room.
So hang on, you're telling me, hand on heart, the management, the boot room, were up the front drinking whiskey out of Lucozade bottles on the way home.
A Lucozade bottle.
Not one each.
And no. And sometimes in the winter, it would be in the dugout with them, like just a little shot. I've told you, I certainly told lots of people that we had whiskey in the dressing room before games. There was always a bottle of whiskey. I think at one stage there might have been a bit of brandy, I'm not sure, but generally there's always a bottle of whiskey, and you could go and just have a little tot. And it was only because get a little bit of fire inside you, a little bit of warmth, just a little bit of come on. So it was not an issue. They weren't like writing, Lawrenson had some last week, didn't play very well. It was just there. Yeah. And I have to say it worked.
Listen, this is what Man City needed maybe in Europe.
Possibly. You don't drink now, really.
No. So Liverpool at Villa Park Tuesday tomorrow. Man City, Molloy Wednesday. Goal difference coming into this now. So City are +4. Like, we're now at the point of Liverpool needing City potentially to drop 3 and then maybe drop another 1. Potentially, depends on how things go. But goal difference starting to nudge in their favour after the weekend as well. What are you feeling about the Championship at this stage?
There's only one team can win it, which is City. And we're now saying, maybe Liverpool's remaining fixtures are easier than City. They've got a couple of injuries, but I know where I would rather be. I would rather be in that Manchester City dressing room, because they've got the bit between the teeth, haven't they? So, and as I say, that was a very good but very expected win yesterday.
Brighton 4, Manchester United 0.
Sorry, I just stopped myself from laughing. Two things. Obviously, Brighton, my old team. I mean, and as everybody knows, they don't score at home. They've had a really good day, and people saying Graham Potter going to go higher and all that kind of stuff. He's done a really, really good job there. I don't think he's ready for top 6 yet, but he's done a very, very good job. But, they've had a long spell of not winning as well. But he's a good coach. Manchester United are just an absolute mess for the same reasons that we keep talking about, that, you can't have an interim manager. Obviously, that upsets the dressing room, which we can just tell there isn't a dressing room as such. It doesn't matter what players are playing. And Ten Hag he's got a massive, massive rebuilding job to do. I hear people say, will he get rid of those 10? And by the way, it's difficult to get rid of players nowadays because you have to pay their contracts up. And unless Manchester United are willing to give an absolute fortune away or get some really high numbers in terms of transfers out, I think it's going to be a real struggle. And they are just absolutely all over the place. The goalkeeper's been the best player for them all season, which says something about Manchester United.
Yeah, I was thinking of Son being interviewed at Anfield, and he was talking about the goal they scored, and you mentioned how good Spurs were when they did eventually break away here and there in the game, and Son was saying for the goal, which was just brilliantly executed, we all know where to run in those moments. We've gone through it, we know exactly what we're doing, and it showed. And you just think, well, this is Conte. This is what he can do very, very quickly at a club. And I don't know, delusions of grandeur. You still have so many Manchester United former players or pundits saying, well, Conte still wouldn't have been right for Manchester United, which is just ludicrous at this stage. I mean, he can win both ways, whatever way you want. But so why they have thought that interim manager to the end of the season was going to end any other way is just beyond me. It's one of their most disastrous appointments, because Champions League football should have been, if they'd had a half decent manager in there easily within their grasp, and so they've polluted the waters for next season as well. Yeah,
but absolutely, definitely. But one of the big problems, and people very seldom mention it, that Fergie stopped, but David Gill stopped with him.
Yes. Now
David Gill, apart from being a top bloke, like he was into UEFA, he was into all sorts of different people in terms of obviously agents, etc. He had a great way of dealing with him. I think the scouting system was completely different. Absolutely everything about it was different under David Gill. And, if Fergie said, I want to go and sign him, they would generally go and sign him. So that's been a major, major problem for them. I mean, they've changed all those kind of, I call them behind-the-scenes jobs anyway, haven't they? And what was his name? Edward Woodward came in. But Edward Wood was appointed by the Glaziers. But they appointed him because on the back of what he did in terms of sponsorship and the deals, not transfer deals, on the deals for the club, and they thought, this fella's great, let's let him manage the team. I mean, by his own admission, eventually Edward Woodward would say, I don't really know much about football, and he doesn't. And that's been the problem. It's like, my mate Moisey is, in hindsight now, if they'd kept him and said, right, you've got a year, let's work with these and turn them round into the team that you want them to be. All right, it's not the Manchester United way, but they'd love that now. He'd have made a really good fist of it. I know he would, but he just wasn't given the time. And then they start to go down, celebrity managers, whatever you want to call them, who you just know they're guns for hire for a year or 18 months. So the decision makers at Manchester United behind the scenes have been a disaster, an absolute disaster.
It's still somewhat staggering how far they've fallen. On Raphael Varane, he's arriving into what Jesse Lingard would tell Paul Scholes is a disastrous dressing room culture, and the team don't seem to have much of a plan either. But Varane at Madrid, certainly when he first came to the fore, looked to be a brilliant player and is a World Cup winner. He had a very sketchy game at the weekend. Where are you in Varane? What are you seeing there?
Do you know what? Why did Madrid sell him? I mean, I think he missed quite a lot of games at Madrid with his knee.
Yeah.
And I think he's missed quite a lot of games at Manchester United with this knee, which suggests to me that he has to nurse it, and he can't do a Paul McGrath and not train all week and then, be the best player on the pitch. So that's the biggest. They've taken the gamble with him, and it's not taken off. So, yeah, he was top player at Madrid, but Manchester United, he's not even been 5 out of 10, has he?
Not really. I mean, you're inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt given his stature, but if he had just arrived a la Victor Lindelof and nobody really knew much about him, I think that would be criticised as well. He'd be criticised for sure.
Yeah. Well, Lindelof is decent, isn't he? But he's not top of the tree. Harry Maguire is decent, but he's not quick. So put the three together, it's just not happening for them. So that's, they talk about Ten Hag, that's the first thing he's got to do is sort them out defensively. Because obviously if you can keep enough clean sheets in this Premier League, you will always get chances with the talent that Manchester United undoubtedly do have when they all turn up.
Yeah.
They'd be shooting right up the league.
In an odd disclosure, Ralph Rangnick further undermined his own position by admitting that he really pushed the board to sign a striker in January, given the Greenwood situation, the Martial situation, Cavani's injuries, etc. He felt we really need a striker here. And he said the board said no, and he was asked as to why they said no, and he said, I don't know. So, I mean, hell of a consultancy job here he's doing. He's really working in the corridors of power there. So that leaves Ronaldo. Do you suspect Ten Hag will look at Ronaldo as he's watching these games very closely now, and he's having to decide, what are my priorities? As in, I can buy maybe 3, 4 at a push, 5 players over the summer. What do you suspect he will think of the Ronaldo situation? Well,
he's going to have to keep him until he gets somebody better. And they're probably talking about 2, aren't they? Because Cavani will be gone, will he not?
Yeah, gone.
I think he's gone. Greenwood, obviously, we don't know. Rashford's kind of faded away completely. So you'd have to keep Ronaldo until you're absolutely 100% certain that you can't get anybody else in. I mean, even if you just get one, you'd probably still need a Ronaldo. And I'd go so far as to say the first one you get in terms of the striker, you might have to look at it in a case to play with Ronaldo, to be an offset to Ronaldo, because you might only be able to get one in. I mean, it looks like he's got so many players to get in, and I don't know whether he knows how big this job is. I mean, it's absolutely massive, because you look at the football club and you say, how's that disappeared down the drain so quickly? It really seriously has, and it's not easy getting back, as Liverpool will tell you.
It was interesting.
And then, of course, you've got Newcastle. So, they're going to be obviously trying to buy better players. I'm not saying they're going to finish in the top 6, but I think they'll be a lot higher than they are, and be a little bit more competitive as well. But, they're now in the mix in terms of the money. Chelsea will still be in there, won't they? Arsenal, etc. So big league next year.
No, for sure. It's interesting. Rangnick was asked which players he was thinking about in January, and he made a point of mentioning Diaz as being one on the market. So there's a degree of self-preservation there, I'm sure, on his part. But
yeah. Well, that's the other thing about when we spoke after the game the other night, and the guy was saying, Tottenham could have had Diaz. It's one of those, isn't it? It's a bit like didn't Wenger say at one stage, we could have had Ronaldo, or he missed his train somewhere, and he ended up in one of those things. Everybody could have had Diaz, but I think Klopp and the way that Liverpool played sold it to him. Absolutely, totally sold it to him. He knew that just the way they are and the atmosphere and all that. And he knew he was going to be made into a better player, and maybe United had looked at him and he sat down with his agent and thought, you know what, I don't think I want to go and play in that team at the moment. So, they want to go to Liverpool, they want to go to Man City, and then possibly go to the rest for the dough, I suppose. But they get the dough everywhere anyway.
Just a last point. Arsenal, well, certainly until Thursday, looking very good in fourth place. They're 4 clear of Spurs, same number of games played. Leeds beaten. They are now fighting it out with Burnley. You would think Everton, having rustled up some results, are in decent shape again. They're 1 clear with a game in hand. So Arsenal 2, Leeds 1. 2 things from this. Eddie Nketiah, so scored the 2 goals. Is out of contract at the end of the summer. Yeah. And, for instance, I saw Jamie Carragher saying, well, Arsenal will want to keep him, but he should go. He should absolutely go. He's never going to be first choice there. What's your read on Nketiah and what a player like that should do in a position like he's in?
Oh, well, he's in a perfect position, isn't he? I mean, the fact that he played for Leeds on loan as well was quite ironic yesterday. He's in a perfect position because he can just sit back with his agent and wait for the deals to come in. I would think the thing with Arsenal will be that, yes, they want to keep him, but how much does it cost to keep him? Don't forget that they've had a nightmare with a couple of players, haven't they? Paying absolute fortunes for them, and they ran the contracts down and cleared off. So they're very much looking after the pennies at Arsenal. But looks like Lacazette will go, does it not? So I just think they should try and keep him within reason.
Spurs Arsenal Thursday is very interesting. At Spurs. Yeah,
it is. It is. I think it'd be a damp squib, but I think it'd be interesting to watch. But look at, they've both got some really good players. They are good sides without being outstanding sides. But there's a frailty, isn't there, in both teams? Arsenal had that great run. Then did they lose 3 or 4 on the belt? And then Tottenham had to go on a great run and go to Burnley and get done 1-0. And you're kind of looking at your players and you're thinking, well, what's all this about? And I would call them that they are both nearly teams. They're nearly very good. On the day, excellent. Mind you, Leeds were an absolute mess yesterday. Aylin's tackle, and I don't know. Maybe the manager got them wound up. Maybe he got them wound up too much. He probably said to them, look, let's get into these. Fancy Don's playing from Arsenal and on the ball and all that kind of stuff. Not very physical. Let's get into them. But I think his words were taken too literally. And Tottenham, any team with Kane obviously and Son, and the boy they've taken as well from Italy, who's a good player, plays on the right. They will win your games, and you don't have to be brilliant defensively to win those games, because those 2/3 are world-class players. But you need more than that, don't you? On your bad days in this league, you've got to win. You've just got to win. It doesn't matter how you do it. You just got to win. Look at the number of games that the top 2 win. It's just absolutely staggering.
Yeah, it's insane. Were you sent off much in your career?
No, I was the first person sent off playing for Liverpool in Europe in where was it? Bulgaria, I think it was.
Straight red.
Straight red, yeah. The linesman put his flag up. I tackled this guy and he went down like a pack of whatever. And I got sent off for striking an opponent. And I never touched him. And I swear on my kid's life till the day I die and everything. And I came off and Bob Paisley said, Mark, did you touch him? I said, boss, I just tackled him. I said, I never, he went, and I said, he went down holding his head on the far side. And so Liverpool asked for the TV video. It would be in those days.
Yeah.
Never got sent. Never got sent. But hey,
the Bulgarian director lost it, did he?
Well, yeah, somewhere. And people forget Kenny Dalglish got sent off in a massive game as well. First time ever for Liverpool against, I think, Benfica away. We never ever let him down about that one. We keep obviously all the time. Every time we see him, shut up! You got sent off. What are you on about?
Yeah. But if you make a tackle like Ayling there, especially in that position of the pitch, there's no imminent danger. There is something off with your mindset, isn't there?
All of them. But what about what was his name? Rafinha.
Rafinha, yeah.
What about him? He could have had 5 bookings in the space of about a minute. What he was saying to the referee did brilliant for him. He booked him, and then every time Rafinha shouted at him, the referee looked at him as though to say, "Look, you're very close to overstep." And you can see with his old players trying to pull him away, and it's just wow. But Leeds, they're just strange Leeds at the moment. That was a very, very strange performance. Better in the second half, obviously, but the game was gone by then.
Yeah. We pretty much got to wrap up. Our football show coverage here is brought to you by Sky. Don't miss Aston Villa Liverpool tomorrow night, live only on Sky Sports. We've been talking with Mark Lawrenson, looking through the texts and the tweets coming in for all the brilliant analysis, Mark. They're all about whiskey, believe it or not. Somebody, clearly a connoisseur, wants assurance that it was a glass Lucozade bottle and not some plastic thing.
It was glass. No, it had the coloured cellophane round it, but it was definitely glass. Listen,
still had that touch of class. They wouldn't go plastic.
No, listen, I'm telling you something now. By the way, it was probably never ever like swap for another one. They just get a new one and pour it in the top. The old superstitions, and all those kind of, and they did. And we did play a game against Middlesbrough. We'd won the league on the Saturday, played on the Tuesday. I mean, everyone knows this. And we played drunk. We went in the pub in the afternoon in Middlesbrough, got drunk and played, drew 0-0. And we kept saying to ourselves, they've not realised on the bench that we're all like, 5 sheets to the wind. And then, of course, somebody said, whiskey bottle, yeah. And apparently they emptied it on the bench watching us play. So, all good.
Oh, man. Do you, a genuine question, which era would you prefer to play in? That era with the fun, and even just taking money out of it for a second, that era with the fun and that kind of atmosphere we described.
No,
or there is something to be said for the pitches and maximising in sports science and whatever comes with today.
Diet, travel, all those kind of things, and the money. But we had massive fun. I mean, there's 10 of us that live here, we live about 20 miles north of Liverpool, and there's 10 of us all virtually played in the same team, see each other all the time. And, we still have fun now. But, I mean, the fun we had was just absolutely mad. I remember, where were we? I think we'd beaten Panathinaikos away in the semi-final European Cup. And it was 5-0 over 2 legs. And we stayed over that night because it was a long journey. We didn't go through the night. And we had a hat party. But the thing about the hat party was, if you wanted, you only needed to wear a hat. Could you imagine? Could you imagine now Sky Sports if somebody'd seen the pictures from that? Brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's stuff like, and some of the players, sorry, I know you've got to go, but like, I don't see Craig Johnson very often because he lives over in between, America and Australia, Stevie Nichols in America. But when they come back and we have a do, right, within 10 seconds, and it is 10 seconds, you are back in the dressing room. And it's the same Mickey taking, the same stories, absolutely everything. And you know what? You couldn't put any price of money on that.
No, I'm sure.
The memories are absolutely brilliant.
Do you not think the modern day dressing room will have that in 30 years if they get together? No. No,
I don't. It's just not quite the same because they never really overstepped the mark. But some of our gigs away from home in Europe most definitely did.
I'm sure. Listen, great to have you on. Thanks so much, Mark Lawrenson. Pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you.